Hey everyone, it's Brittany with Aimpoint, and we're back. We're back with Pat McNamara. Hey Pat,
Hey, Brittany, how you doing?
good. How you doing?
Good, and hello everybody out there in shot world.
Yeah, we're here for a virtual shot. What a strange
Yep,
world this is.
yep, yep.
So Pat is a friend of Aimpoint, and he has been in he was in the U.S. Army for 22 years, a majority of that time in special operations. Now he's a nationally recognized firearms instructor as well as an author. Pat, what else you want to tell us about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, you covered it in a nutshell. So 22 years, of my whole time was special ops, whole different bunch of special ops jobs. My last 13 were in the unit, and I've been working under my own banner since 2010 under the TMACS Inc. banner.
Okay. Well, we asked the people on social media for some questions for you. We had quite a few come in. I
Cool.
did have to narrow them down. I kind of tried to keep a main point focused.
Hmm.
But the first one is just kind of about you. So, first question is from Shane on
Hmm.
Instagram. He says, "What triggered your desire for Spec Ops, and where does your desire to pass along your knowledge and training to others come from?"
Hey Shane, thanks for that question. So the desire, I kind of winged it when I joined the military. I didn't even have a particular branch I wanted to join. I went to each one of the recruiters and I asked them a stupid, hardcore teenager question. What's the hardest thing I could do? That was pretty much it. And the Army had the best solutions at the time for fast tracking to badassery. And that was either a Ranger contract or at the time, they just started the SF baby programs, the X-ray program, and I was one of the very first X-rays, one of the very first ones. The second part of that question was something like, "What drives me to train?" or "Where does my desire to pass along knowledge
Yeah,
come from?"
yeah. Where's your desire come from?
I think we're all destined to be good at a certain skill sets, and that's a skill set that I found myself Um, and even while I was in the military, I did some training, and I love podium work or running a line. I love imparting a palatable message onto the recipients, and it's very. I tell you what you get out of it. You get fulfillment. So fully filled. You get fulfillment when you impart a message to somebody that could help them in life. So whether that be fighting, self-defense, shooting, whatever it is, because I teach all of that stuff, and I enjoy making people better people. It's very fulfilling.
It's a great answer. Yeah, love that. Okay, so we're going to talk about your setup for your
Yep.
rifle. What's your optic setup?
All right, so it just so happens I have my rifle with me, just in case somebody would ask that, and I'll bring it up here in the view. Now, with a lot of guys, there's probably been an evolution, when it comes to their rifle setup, their optic setup, and it's very, very personal. So I don't think anybody could tell you that it's right or wrong, unless, of course, you have your freaking optic on wrong or something like that. Then you're right. You're right. There is a right or wrong there. But as far as like specific setup, make, model, where, how, that kind of stuff, it's very personal. So I've been running this setup exclusively now for about 5 years consistently, and I rarely go to anything else on my AR platform, and that is uh, Aimpoint T2 optic. So it's the 2 MOA with 3 by multiplier. I am in love with this. I have like almost an emotional attachment to this. It just feels like an extension of my body. I mean, when I don't need this guy, he's out of the way. So 50 and in, he's out of the way. I never touch him. And as soon as I do, beyond 50 or teetering on that 100 mark, pop him up. But yeah, I have 3 or two rifles set up identically. Same make model rifle and same make models of Aimpoint optics. But yeah, I love this setup. Backup irons, of course. Anytime you have a battery powered optic, you got to have, even though the battery life is extraordinary, you've got to have backup irons because you never know when things might go south. So yeah, that's my setup, my preferred setup right there. Boom, love it.
Awesome. Okay, this next question is a little bit of a long one, so hang with me.
No worries.
All right, this is from Lawrence, and he asked this on Instagram. Aimpoint talks about the concept of unlimited field of view with their optics by keeping both eyes open. He says, wouldn't the concept of unlimited field of view apply to all optics? Which is the first question. Second part of the question is, therefore, in his opinion, wouldn't it mean that the optic with the biggest window give you the best field of view?
Yeah, so who gave this question?
So this is Lawrence, and if you want
Lawrence,
to,
right on. Yeah, good. So
if you want to
Lawrence,
let everyone know what we mean by unlimited field of view first,
right.
probably say that.
So, field of view, how much can you see out or through your optic and how much can you see around it? So, because you have field of view that's outside of the optic too. So I'm going to answer both questions simultaneously. So if you have an optic that's taking up a bunch of real estate and you have a very narrow, let's say, ocular lens, you don't have a really good field of view through the optic. And if it's taking up a bunch of real estate, if your buttons, switches, knobs, and that kind of stuff are too bulky, it's limiting your field of view outside of the optic. Now, you could increase or decrease field of view too by where you mount that optic to your rifle. For it now, I once again I mount mine pretty far forward, but that's because I have the 3x on it, and I don't want that 3x to extend past my charging handle, because if it's there, and if you're shooting correctly, you can't really get a good cheek to stock weld. So you want to have at least 1.5 inches of eye relief here, right? At least 1.5 inches. The closer it is, the more field of view you have through the optic. The further it is, the more field of view you have around or outside of the optic. So I'm pretty sure I answered that one. Oh, but as far as best, or the one with the bigger screen, once again, that's a very personal it's a personal issue. What and how you mount it is very personal.
Okay. All right, that one was a tricky one, right?
Yeah, it was good. It was good. I don't mind getting the gears turning.
Okay. All righty. Okay, next one. Actually, I'm gonna do an easier one, and then we'll go back. So next question is from Jeff Lee, not Jeffrey, Jeff Lee from Instagram. He says, what is the overall best and most versatile distance to 0 and 11.5 inch upper with a red dot?
Jeff Lee, thanks for that. I'm a nerd when it comes to zeroing. I kind of geek out about it. Every single rifle course I run, I've got one coming up here in a few days. Every single rifle course I run, we start with bare bone basic fundamentals, BRM, basic rifle marksmanship, and I start everybody zeroing. It doesn't matter what their skill level is or if they have a zero. I start them all zero. And then I explain external ballistics. And I also explain that there is some personal point of view, personal opinion when it comes to zero distance. So I'm not sure if there is an answer, if the answer what is the best. I'm going to tell you what mine is and why I prefer it, because the best can be left to interpretation, right? Because some people are max ordnance zeros, that 100 yard max ordnance zero. I'm a 5200. So, and I show the class this every course I run. Once we get 5x, 5x, 5x through a B8 bowl at 50, we push back to 200. And the strike of that round, 5.56, 223, same place. So another reason I like 5,200 is because from the muzzle all the way out to 225, I am either gaining or losing only about 1.5 inches. So it mitigates my having to concern myself with offset. Don't do a point of aim, point of impact at 25, because then at mid-range fight, you're about 8 inches high. Don't do that kind of thing. So personally, 5,200 versus the max ordinance 100 for me.
Okay. Alrighty, let's talk about parallax.
Cool.
This next question from Cam. He says, Aimpoint says that their optics are operationally parallax free. What does that mean, and why is that important?
All right, so I'm writing this down while you say it. So notice the key word, operationally parallax free. A lot of vendors will boast that they are parallax free. Now, what they're saying is the law of physics don't apply in their shop. All glass, right, has parallax to some degree. My readers have parallax. Your Oakley shooting glasses have parallax to some degree. It's that bending of light through a lens. Operationally is the key word here. We are operationally parallax free. What the vendor is saying when he writes that. So Aimpoint Optics writes that in a manual, let's say, in operation, in a user manual. What they're saying is stress inoculation, that kind of thing. You pull that up, and no matter where that dot is in the aperture, so long as that dot is on the target, that round is going to strike where that dot is. Is it 100% parallax free? I got to tell you, another reason why I like this setup, it's the closest thing that I found to being parallax free right there. Because I run, and there's good optics out there that aren't even close to it. They're good. They're still good, but they're not even close to being parallax free. So in order to show that to a class, you have to force a parallax. It's kind of a tricky thing to do, where you break your cheek stock weld and you put that dot up in the far right, far left, upper hand corner, and then put that dot on the center of the X-ring. So now the target itself is not within the center of the aperture. It's upper left, lower right, whatever it is. But that's the way you could test that parallax. And man, this thing is so close, it's not even funny. But operationally, oh yeah, it's going to work. I'm going to hit the black. There's no doubt about it. I am out of the X-ring just a little bit with this T2. So just another point for me. When we're talking optics on the range, not only the clarity of that round dot, but the lack of parallax that it presents, because it's a big deal, especially if you're you have to take a discerning, discriminating shot. If that thing has to be there within a certain size and not just on target somewhere, you have to make sure that your optic is operationally parallax free.
Okay. All right, we got 2 questions left.
All righty.
Okay. First one is, when were you issued your first red dot, and what was it?
Oh, cool. I love that. I remember it. So when I went to, I got to the unit, made it through selection 91, got to the unit in 92, went through OTC in 92. And we started training with irons, and then shortly thereafter were issued Aimpoint 5000s, for those of you old enough to remember those guys. So, that's like I don't know if that was Gen 1 Aimpoint optic, but pretty close to it. But those things ran, man. They ran. You can imagine how much we beat those things up. Yep, Aimpoint 5000, 92.
Cool. All right, last question.
Yep.
This is a fun one. So why do you find it so important to mix physical output with shooting?
Oh, so fighting is fighting, right? Let's talk fighting world. Whether you're fighting with your fists and your feet or you're fighting with guns, fighting is fighting. There's some common denominators there, right? There's going to be kinetics. There's going to be movement, because mobility equals survivability. right? So you have to be able to move your body over a chunk of earth from point A to point B with in an expeditious means. You have to be able to because once again, fighting is fighting. There's going to be stress inoculation, elevated heart rate, a little bit of maybe confusion, that kind of thing. So you have to incorporate the physical work along with your range work. It doesn't have to be done all the time, 100% of the time, because we need that flat range, slow fire, fundamental work, but you have to incorporate that. It is not an option. It's not, well, maybe I'll get to it someday, because if you're training for a gunfight, if you're training for fighting for self-defense, fighting is fighting. There's going to be movement. Mobility equals survivability.
Pat, I'm curious, what's your week look like? Do you have a certain regiment that you do, or is it something different all the time?
There's a lot of structure in my world. Courses are reserved for the weekends, and I've cut down on the amount of those that I am doing, and I've cut way back on my travel, almost exclusively. So I'm almost exclusive just to my home state when it comes to training. So the week looks like I follow a whiteboard. I draw out a mission essential task list every night on the things I have to do the next day. And some of it is this, one-on-one online virtual stuff. Some of it is Zooms with I have a coaching squad. A lot of volunteer stuff now too, where I'm doing just guys want a fundamental class. I'm like, yeah, send me a Zoom link or something and I'll hook you up, and then I follow my combat strength training program. So there's a workout every day in there. And I do that in my driveway. I don't go to a gym anymore. I'm done with gyms. Done forever. Done with them because of coronation. Yeah. And then choring, because I'm the leader of a household. So I have dogs to train, I have stuff to clean up, I have gardening to do, all that kind of thing. So I have no expendable, disposable time. I fill it. I fill any void with some kind of work or activity.
It's great. It's great. Loving life, right?
Right on. Yep, I am loving life.
Okay. Well, that's all the questions that we had. Did you want to say anything else? Any closing statements?
No, I just appreciate everybody watching, and when it comes to training, master those fundamentals. Try to stay away from the gizmos, gadgets, gimmicks, all that malarkey, and try to work those fundamentals and work toward having an acute understanding of the fundamentals.
Okay. Thanks for joining us, Pat. Really appreciate your time. And
right on.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you around Virtual SHOT Show booth.
Cool.
And be sure to follow us on social and follow Pat. Pat, what's your handle? I know you've had some issues with two different, couple of different profiles.
It's back up. My primary IG is back up.
Okay.
And that's at TMACS Inc. at TMACS Inc. And then my YouTube channel is Pat Mac. And that's about it. Those will get you anywhere else.
All right. Great. Thanks
so
much. We'll talk soon.
Thank you very much. Have a good one. See you, folks.